I call this meeting the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to order for Monday, March 10th. Morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, everybody.
Church.
First thing on our agenda is to meet with Denise Ballard from EBS to discuss our insurance renewal, health insurance renewal. So I will just give the floor to you or the table to you or whatever.
Good morning. So I am going to review your renewal with you. These are going to be the rates for your upcoming 2025 plan year. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes talking about the performance of the trust, and then we'll quickly get into Jefferson County and individual results. On page 2, you'll find that we're serving 54 entities with 13,000 members. So there's now 53 other groups within IGHCP that are joint purchasing health insurance and related benefits. All groups are using partial self-funding for their funding mechanism. So buying that high deductible and out of pocket from Wellmark and then reimbursing back to the employees to make that a richer benefit. All groups entering IGHCP receive a 7 to 9% discount on their Wellmark premium. And then where the biggest feature advantage of IGHCP comes into play is at renewal, where we pool the claims and premium to deliver one renewal to all IGHCP members. So this year, that renewal on page 3, that renewal this year at the Wellmark level is 0%. So we didn't have an increase on the Wellmark portion of the plan. You can see on page 3, this is just benchmarking what our rates have been, what our renewals have been since 2005. Jefferson County was one of the original 8 members that started IGHCP. So you have experienced this full 20 years of renewal trend final. So for the 19-year average, because I don't have all of 2025 done yet, our 19-year average increase is 3.09% a year. So that means on average, the IGHCP group since 2005 have realized a 3% renewal year over year, compared to the trend in Iowa, followed by what was delivered initially by Wellmark. Last page on the trust, you'll find the IGHCP trust claims. So this is going to cover all of the membership. On average in 2024, we had 4,600 employees covered under the plan and 12,000 members. When you look at the claims, our claims, in a year period were right about $65 million. The premium right about $74 million, which creates an 87.82% loss ratio, which is below our target. The actuaries expect us to hit somewhere between 91 and 93, so the trust is running better than expected. Jefferson County, you guys had a great year in 2024. Super low claims, 57% is your loss ratio, which means Wellmark spent 57% of the premium you sent them on your claims. So last year, you guys were one of the best performing groups within IGHCP. Your partial self-fund is running about as expected. You so far have given us $15,000 to pay claims. $71,000 is what your actual claims were for a deficit of $55,000. But you guys just fund that as we go. You manage your own reserve. We don't do that for you any longer. So nothing to be alarmed there with that deficit, because you're budgeting what you're spending internally. Looking at your high cost claimants, this is a report that's going to illustrate any of the members covered under the Jefferson County plan that have had a diagnosis where $10,000 or greater has been paid for that diagnosis. So really it's just tracking your high cost claims. When a claim gets to about $10,000, medical management gets involved. We watch those claims pretty closely. To help you understand this report, if you go 4 columns in on that blue banner, you'll see the letters REL. REL stands for relationship. If there's an S in that category or in that box, that's a spouse of an employee. And an E would be an employee. You don't have any dependents hitting this page, but if you did, that would that would be represented by a D. If you go to your fourth claimant down, you'll see the word cancel as well as the last claimant on this page. So that just simply means that member is no longer covered under your plan. That risk has been removed. Any questions on that page? Okay. Page 8, this is a snapshot of your receipts and disbursements report. This report is delivered to the auditor's office on a monthly basis and represents the activity of your consolidated bill that is sent to you by EBS. So the top section of this report is going to be by line item and by month what we billed you for. And the bottom section is the disbursement of those dollars. Any remaining dollars then would go into your Jefferson County insurance account balance, the second to last line item on the page. So you'll see there is $120,613 in that account. Those dollars sit there and are accessed by EBS to pay providers as we process your claims. So that's Jefferson County's money owned and controlled by you. However, we have access to it again to pay your claims. That'll take us to your medical benefit overview. You're currently operating 3 plans, varying by deductible. So I'm just going to review plan 1. The other 2 plans are going to follow suit relative to how claims are processed. Under plan 1, you have a $250 deductible. That means the employee is responsible for the first $250 worth of claims. That deductible is 2 times for a family. So if you have a family under plan 1, the family deductible would be $500. Or in other words, the most the family would pay is 2 deductible units. If they have 5 people in their family, 2 have to hit that risk. Then in the white, that's what we're purchasing from Wellmark. So Wellmark, we're purchasing a $5,000 deductible with a 10,000 family from Wellmark. That's the Wellmark plan. The $650, $1,300 is your employees out-of-pocket maximum. That's the most they'll pay in any calendar year for hospital expenses if they're covered under plan 1. $73.50, $14.7 is what we're purchasing from Wellmark. So another way to look at that would be the county is paying the claims that fall between that $73.50 and then $650. Okay, so you take those 2 out of pockets, the one we buy from Wellmark, the one you deliver to your employees, the county is responsible for the difference between those 2 liabilities. If your employees are covered under plan 1, there's no cost to use doctors on demand. On any of the plans, there's no cost to use the telemedicine benefit. That's free for physical and mental health. Doctor's office visits are going to be $10. If you go to the doctor's office, brick and mortar, $10 copay under all 3 plans. That's what you pay the day of service, and then insurance pays the rest. If you use a primary care physician, then that copay actually becomes $5. So if you designate and then use a primary care physician, your copay is just $5. And then prescription drugs are the same under all 3 plans, $10 for tier 1, $25 tier 2, and $40 for tiers 3 and 4. Any questions on the benefits themselves? We don't have any changes for your upcoming plan year as far as changes to your benefit set, with the exception of we are adding an additional telehealth benefit that really revolves around preventative care, and I'll explain that towards the end. There's a page on that. Okay, so this is your risk review, and this is really the page where we need to focus on how we set your rates, or where you want your rates to be relative to the risk and liability associated with your self-funded portion of your plan. So if you look at plan 1, the $250 deductible plan, which is where most of your employees are, that's the plan that most employees are participating with. You remember I said you have to look at the employee out-of-pocket maximum and the fully insured out-of-pocket maximum to determine what the county's exposure is. So that first box, the $73.50, represents the point at which Wellmark is going to pay a claim at 100%. If we're hitting $73.50 and $14.7, that means the county no longer has exposure to that claim, nor does the employee. So 7,350 on a single, we take out of that 7,350, the employee's cost liability. The employee, remember, has a 650 out-of-pocket maximum. So we're gonna remove their liability or their exposure from the overall exposure. That leaves $6,700 for the county. So that means on any one claim, the county's responsible for $6,700. So if you have $1 million claim, you're not gonna pay more than that $6,700. So your risk is capped at that level and 2 times that for a family. So if I take your county exposure of $6,700 on the single side, times the 46 people, because you have 46 exposures, do the same thing on the family, add those 2 numbers together, $402,000 is what the county is exposed to in self-funded claims for Plan 1. That same logic applies to plans 2 and 3. Adding those numbers all together, you can see the $814,800. That's the worst case scenario. If you have every single employee and their dependent hospitalized at the same time in the same plan year, that's your exposure, not plan year, calendar year. Okay, so we know you're never going to hit that. We know that's never going to happen where everybody's hospitalized at the same time. We expect about 20 to 25% of the people to be hospitalized, and for that to be the exposure that you should expect to hit. So to kind of prove that to you, if you look at the skinny box right below that, what we've just gone through, that's 5 years of your average claim spend. So on average, you spend $141,000 in claims annually. Okay, so we talked about your liability being $814,000. You're using $141,000 of that on a regular basis. That's 17% of the exposure. I told you, I expect you to use between 20 and 25%. You're using at about 17.5%. So when you go to budget your partial self-fund, you know, you really need to stay around that number relative to putting claims money in your budget. So what did you budget for next year?
We left it the same as we've been doing because you're part of the expression ahead of the game. So I think we've been pretty consistent in that regard, and Shannon indicated she was comfortable with what we, and I can't remember now, or I'd have to look to see, but we're in the 200,000 range.
That you mean your reserve balance?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know where you want your rates to be? Like, are you, let's keep going and then I'm going to circle back on the budget. Okay. Okay. So page 11, the IGHCP, this is applying the 0% to your plan, but I'm going to take it to page 12 because the IGHCP board did approve the IGHCP fee increase. So if you don't make any changes to your plan, everything stays exactly the same. Your renewal this year is 0.39%. So is that what I should assume? This is what your rates are going to be? Or do you want to? Yeah, what do you? So the renewal is 0.39. So you're just going to absorb that. And then the count.
See what you're at.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I apologize.
No worries.
So when I first talked,
Yep.
you said somewhere around 3%.
Yep.
And to budget 3 to 5 because
Yes.
it's easier to call.
Yes.
So that's what.
Okay, so you're well within that.
Yeah.
So you just let me know
Okay,
how you want to be billed
okay.
relative, you know, I mean, for this 0.39%. We can talk about it later too. We don't have to make a decision today.
Okay.
I misunderstood.
No, that's okay. Yeah, we just want to know so we can get your paperwork
Yeah.
set up correctly going forward, but we can work through that following the meeting. So any questions on the rates? Any questions so far? Okay, that's going to take us to your dental. Your dental, you have 3 options on your dental. There's no change in your benefits for next year and no change in premium. That's also a 0% renewal. Your rates are on the next page. It's a self-funded plan, so we're operating that with as little dollars as possible. We're charging a $5 admin fee to process your claims, but outside of that, there's nothing else built into those premiums. It's just claims in, claims out. Your vision insurance. Also, no change in benefits, no change in cost. That's also 0%. Life insurance, no change in benefits, no change in cost, no increase, a 0% renewal there. Short-term disability as well as long-term disability on the following page are both unchanged, no change in benefits, no change in cost. And that'll take us to the all health choice page. This is the new benefit that's going to be available for employees to use on July 1 if they so choose. It's completely voluntary. It's an app on your phone. Again, it's a telehealth benefit that's associated with preventative care, just trying to get those that don't engage in any way in their health insurance to have an option to engage that's no cost to them, but can give them some targeted risk assessment, like a blood pressure reading, a stress level reading. Again, employees don't have to participate, but the app will be available on 7/1 for those that do. We will be rolling out educational sessions, so we'll be doing that through your office, letting you know dates, times, et cetera, in case employees want to learn more. And there are also going to be some in-person meetings, but I don't have that scheduled yet. It'll be this spring. On page 20 are some additional services value adds for IGHCP members. Employee Navigators, our benefit admin system. Delta Dental, you guys are participating in. You are also participating in with standard benefits. Hy-Vee is our partner for biometric screenings in the event someday you want to go down that road with population health management. We have options for you there. And then Rocket Wire and All Health. Page 21 is the current membership. So this is all of the members currently joint purchasing health insurance and employee benefits with Jefferson County. Since I was here last, the most recently added groups are Lee County came on 7/1, just this last July. So did Sac, Crawford, and Keokuk counties. On the city side, the city of Carroll is new, and so is the city of Sergeant Bluff. We no longer, we don't accept schools into the program. We do have a few schools that are grandfathered and are able to stay on our plan. However, there's no marketing or acceptance of new schools. And then we have some other like regional waterworks and so forth that are eligible to participate, but are not a city or county. Any questions?
Do have one. I probably asked you this 100 times, but is there, or would there be an advantage to moving into one plan deductible in terms of cost savings for the county?
Yes. If the deductible you choose is one of the higher ones. So if you moved everybody into the $250 deductible, obviously there wouldn't be a cost savings there because that's the richest of the three benefits. But if you moved everybody to the $500 or the $1,000 deductible option, certainly you would see a savings in your partial self-fund utilization. In order to save, if you look at page 12, your biggest single cost is what you send to Wellmark. So if we're going to really try to produce some savings at the county level, it would be addressing that Wellmark plan. So there are other Wellmark plan options that I could build your plan from that would create some cost savings, but it would mean increasing maybe your doctor's office copay, you know, from $10 to $15, or changing your prescription drugs. So there are options out there where we can, you know, I can look at those and see what kind of savings it creates and then deliver kind of a comparison of benefits and a comparison of costs back to the supervisors for you to look at, you know, the cost benefit.
Well, obviously, you know, as we've gone through this and I've been with you for a long time, so, and I know that you put a tremendous amount of work in this and you kept our premium increases to a minimum of when we up from Blue Cross Blue Shield to some other blue thing. I can't remember exactly what it was, but we changed some providers and
Yes, we changed the network back in 2016, I believe it was, 14 or 16.
which saved us
Yeah,
a significant amount
Yep.
of money. And I was just thinking about this last night because I knew you were going to be here and I'm sure I've asked you that before, but what you said makes sense, but it probably wouldn't save us a significant amount of money in terms of, I mean, if we move,
certainly not, if you don't change the Wellmark plan,
right,
it is not gonna save, it's not gonna save you much money.
okay,
It's gonna save the amount that you're spending
in that 20.
in that reimbursement area, but yeah, not a
Okay.
lot. You really have to get at that Wellmark plan to, you know, if you wanted to see a reduction in cost, you want your premiums to go down, I could show you that, but it would mean being on a different Wellmark chassis. I would build your plan off of a different Wellmark plan.
Oh, we would likely then cut benefits to,
You would,
yeah.
yep, you would.
Okay. Any other questions for Denise? I do truly appreciate all the opportunity you have put into this and, I mean, I don't know where you're gonna go and get a 0%.
Yeah, we're very excited about it, yep. That's like, especially with
Now, that's
the
for the
budget
next
year.
15 years.
Yeah, well, I'm trying. I try every year, but yeah. All right, well, if you do want to see alternates, Darcy, you just get with me and we can turn those around pretty quickly.
Okay. All right,
All right?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
All right,
Denise.
nice to see you. Take care.
all right. Moving on quickly. I would entertain a motion to acknowledge the minutes of,
March the third,
is that
so moved.
okay?
Then I'll second it.
Discussion?
I didn't get it out of his mouth.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Wait,
I'll keep this short.
Thank
But
you.
you've got a full plate. They're working on driving pile on Libertyville Road and hopefully we'll get some poured this week as well. Things are moving along well. Mother Nature's cooperating, so we anticipate that they will be well ahead of the October completion date. On that, we're putting contract rock in the northwest part of the county right now. We'll be working on there until we get done and then keep moving around. And we're also doing Edge Road on Pleasant Plain Road. So the traffic on Pleasant Plain Road will be a bit messed up during working hours for the next couple of weeks while we work on bringing those. And what Edge Road is the shoulder drop off at the end of the road. We'll bring that up with fresh rock and compact it. And then Thursday this week, I'll be over at ISAC. I volunteered to be on a traffic control safety panel to discuss traffic control. And that's all I have.
any questions for Dwayne?
Thank you.
And moving right along on our Libertyville. Right?
Yeah.
They are moving along very well on Libertyville Road. That's where they're driving pile this week and they hope to pour concrete.
So over in 2 weeks.
No, but it'll be well ahead of the October.
All right, sweet.
If you get across the creek, you can drive it.
There you go. Josh?
Thanks,
Good
Dwayne.
morning. I'll try to be quick as well here. There's a resolution to bring on one of our part-time paramedics, bring him on full-time. He recently retired from the university after 20 years up there and we have hours available for him to come on full-time, so.
And that, will that make us technically fully staffed? full-time wise.
Yes, I believe so.
Anything else?
I mean, we need a motion for that.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Couple other things here real quick. So I did ask for an increase in the credit card amount for the Jefferson County ambulance credit card. And this can be a temporary thing because for the training program, they're at an unexpected turn of events. I do need to attend a workshop, a new accreditation workshop, even though I do have experience in this. I reached out to them and it wasn't within their time frame. So there's an accreditation workshop in May that I would need to attend if we want to hit the July 1 goal. So the price there, I looked last week for the workshop, it's $450, and then flights and a room out there. So my hope is that we could increase that credit card usage, just again temporarily if we need to be able to cover those expenses.
So just for the folks that are here and listening, the board has decided we have I want to make sure I'm not, this is in relationship to training.
Yes, sir.
So what we've decided to do is to take advantage of Josh.
That's a good way to say that.
Yeah, okay.
Of my experience.
Our director of operations was a former instructor at Indian Hills Community College, and he trained EMTs and paramedics. And so we're going to move into that venue as well, and be able to do that for folks at a significantly lower cost than what they might be expected to pay otherwise, and allows us to take advantage of their services. Will be accredited, and they'll be able to get their state certification just like they would anywhere else, and they can use us for the clinicals, but it'll be an online program and then some FaceTime. So
Yes.
So the question is to discuss and consider allowing an increase on the credit card to 2,500 for the ambulance service. And specifically at this point, that is for attending the accreditation workshop. So I think probably the first thing would be to I would ask for a motion to approve attending the accreditation workshop.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then since we have approved the attending of the accreditation workshop, to allow an increase maximum on the credit card to $2,500.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Anything else?
I think that's all I got.
All right,
Thank you,
perfect.
sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Discuss and consider disposal system contractor's license.
We don't have a bond for that yet.
Okay, then we will table that.
You can move forward if you want contingent on the bond, but we don't have it yet.
What do you think? Should we?
You can do that if you'd like. You want to discuss it now?
I've not heard anything from Jerry in opposition, so. If you, mentioned.
I'm like, are you looking at me? No, I haven't heard anything, but to Joe, is this something that the Board of Health talked about the other day about the contractors coming before the Board of Health versus?
Yeah, that was something.
Because
we
my,
talked
is that
with-
not how that,
Did Bruce mention that or Corey?
I
That
can't
it
speak
should
to
be
that, I
the
don't
Board of
know.
Health approving these contracts.
Well, we've always
We've always done
I
it,
know the
yes.
supervisors have always done it, and I'm not speaking out of turn for environmental health, but that was a conversation that the Board of Health has had by code, so I don't know, Elizabeth, I'm gonna defer to you as the attorney.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know, and Jerry was here, but then he left, I think, so.
Yeah,
well, given the confusion, maybe just table it and then we can double check. what the
Okay.
Procedure needs to be.
Yeah,
So what I will say is we have an ordinance that establishes what the bond rate is. That doesn't mean you can't change that bond rate. So, but we'll table this for now and, well, we won't be meeting next Monday, so we'll put it on the agenda for the 24th. Okay?
so Lee, can I interject a question?
Sure.
Does this cause a
Do I
problem
have
for
to
this?
answer it?
You don't have to answer.
Okay. Okay.
So does this cause a problem for this potential contractor? Then will this hold him up with any possible work that he's doing?
I don't know, we've had no conversation with Jerry or the contractor.
Okay.
Oh, you're
have
saying,
you had any conversation?
Only asking.
I just was asking a
Okay.
question, so,
okay.
yeah, I mean, so. Right. So,
He was in a hurry to get his bond, yes.
Say what?
If he was in a hurry to do something, he would have got his bond taken care of.
Okay, next on the agenda is to meet with Sheriff Bart Richmond to discuss and consider legal fees and costs to taxpayers. I would like to ask, I'm sure that there are opinions on the on both sides of the equation. And I appreciate all of those, but I would also ask that we not get sideways, I guess is what I would say. And Elizabeth, our Assistant County Attorney, is here to help the board in terms of any legal questions that we have and making sure that we are acting within the in the proper capacity. And so I would also request that she be treated with respect and the dignity that she deserves.
And I did provide you a memo. I hope you guys all had an opportunity to read it, or all of you.
I have a copy of it here.
Okay.
If anybody wants to. You need to see it.
Mine's over there. Yeah, I see.
Thank you. I've got that if you want a copy of it right here. I will turn the time over to you, Bart, for the time being.
Thank you, Lee.
Yep.
I am Jefferson County Sheriff Bart Richmond. I've supplied a packet of information to the board today. I'm appearing before the board to request reimbursement of more than $40,000 in climbing I spent to refute the false accusations made against me by Mr. Moldy. Recently, the district court ruled in my favor to remove me from the Brady Giglio list. I've included the entire judge's ruling in your packet, which in summary says I did not do anything Mr. Moldy accused me of. The ruling also notes if I did any of those things Mr. Moldy accused me of, they did not constitute a violation of Brady Giglio. As mentioned by the Assistant County Attorney, you have all received the memo that was provided last week to you by the County Attorney's Office. It states that Iowa Code Section 331 says the board can't reimburse me for the $40,000 in attorney fees. There are 149 pages in that code section. I'm going to hand it to the Assistant County Attorney, Chapter 331 of Iowa Code, and ask that she show us where in that 490 pages it says, quote, Sheriff Richmond is precluded from reimbursement under Iowa Chapter 331, because I'm unable to find it. Regarding the memo in your packet, I've highlighted the memo sections that state you should not reimburse me because I spent $40,000 for personal reasons. Rather, I had to defend the false accusations to be able to perform my duties as the elected sheriff. I'm going to have you look in your packet for the letter that was distributed by Mr. Moldy to Fairfield Police Department leadership team, Jefferson County Chief Deputy Jerry Marcellus, Iowa State Patrol Post 13 Commander Lieutenant Dean Jalis, DCI Special Agent in Charge Joe Listina, Rick Westfall, U.S. Attorney Southern District, and Susan Crisco, Deputy Iowa Attorney General for Criminal Justice. The letter was dated June 25th, 2024. The same day he notified me he was putting me on the Brady Giglio list.
Hang on, Bart, I'm gonna jump in here for a second.
I don't want to be interrupted. I don't want to be interrupted.
I just need to.
Let him
need to-
speak. Let him
need to
speak.
Let you know,
I,
hang on a sec, I gotta just jump in here, as your lawyer, Bart. There is a gag order on this case that you requested. All the evidence is sealed. That exhibit is part of that sealed record. So I just want to make sure you're cognizant of that before you go, publishing documents that are subject to a court seal order. I'd be happy to, coordinate with you on unsealing that record. However, at your request, you sealed all the evidence in this case, and that's something that you're essentially publishing right now. So just be cautious there. Okay?
I apologize for not acknowledging you here. I didn't
Yeah, you're
know you were
fine.
here.
You got that, Bart?
The letter was dated June 25th, 2024. The same day he notified me he was putting me on the Brady Giglio list. The highlighted sections make it very clear that Mr. Molding was telling the recipients that due to him putting me on the list, I was unable to perform all my duties as sheriff. Later, Mr. Molding also provided Brady Giglio information to Tracy Vance's attorney, the Southeast Iowa Union, and KTVO. It should be noted as of March 7th, 2025, there is no indication Mr. Molding has advised any of the parties that district court has removed me from the Brady Giglio list. I am not asking for any damage relating to the letters mailed out by Mr. Molding containing false accusations. Nor am I asking for any damages for more than the 12 newspaper stories containing false accusations that Mr. Molding contributed to. I'm asking for the reimbursement of my attorney fees that I had to spend so that I'd be able to perform the duties of elected sheriff of Jefferson County. Also, you have a copy of page 29 of the ISAC Manual for County Supervisors of Iowa, 2023 version. Paragraph 10 of that manual states, quote, "The board may compromise, adjust, and settle tort claims against the county, its officers, employees, and agents for damages under Iowa Code Section 670.2 and Iowa Code 670.8, and may appropriate money for the payment amounts agreed upon, Section 670.9, unquote." Lastly, Mr. Molding has repeatedly stated that I interfered with the use of force investigation. What Mr. Molding has not told everyone that the supposed victim of the use of force claim never made an official complaint. And Mr. Molding further said that he dismissed the OWI charge because he did not want to risk reprisal to the county. Mr. Molding did not disclose that he went into the jail and spoke with the individual after the individual had been appointed an attorney, but before he met with his defense counsel. Following that conversation, Mr. Molding prepared and provided an informant agreement to the defense attorney in an attempt to use the defendant as a snitch, which I have a copy of that prepared, three-page document prepared by Jefferson County Attorney dated May 31st, 2024, and signed by Chauncey Molding, the month prior to putting me on the list. I want to thank all the board members for this opportunity to address the board. I've faced significant professional and personal hardships as a result of the county attorney's allegations. The ongoing criticism and personal attacks against me and my character have hindered my ability to manage the daily operations of the sheriff's office effectively. My primary focus has always been serving the people of Jefferson County and ensuring our county is safe and prosperous. I believe we need to be united in one direction, working collaboratively on ongoing goals and ideas that strive to better our daily lives and fulfill our obligation to govern through reasonable solutions that correct discord and unruliness. As an administrator of my elected office, I feel it is my duty to govern my employees and provide leadership that encompasses all aspects of their performances and provide direct accountability in all obligations of my subordinates. The district court ruled in my favor to remove me off the Brady Giglio list, which I believe has been an unfortunate circumstance from the start. I find it necessary to address my financial burden and therefore request compensation from the county for my legal fees that I incurred defending myself against unfounded attacks on my character. I feel that it is fair for the county to assist with these expenses, as I believe my placement on the Brady Giglio list was unjust. My integrity and character has never faltered or wavered in any way, and I've maintained my professionalism and commitment to the sheriff's office and the people of Jefferson County. No one should have to endure fear of a retaliation, reprisal, defamation, or character assassination from anyone. I pray this board understands the significance of my plea and recognizes the necessity of a united government that focuses on proactively solving our collective issues. Thank you. I would also like to thank everybody here today for their support and on Zoom today. Thank you.
Code section.
Yeah, it's all through it. And if you want specific citations, I can provide them to you. I can provide them to you as well, Bart. Basically, the Board of Supervisors, well, first of all, let me start by saying that generally attorney's fees are only able to be reimbursed by statute. ADF specifically doesn't create a cause of action, a private cause of action whereby somebody could be reimbursed for attorney's fees. The court, and you'll see that in the ruling that, actually, it's not in that ruling, it's one from December where the court denied Sheriff Richmond's request for attorney's fees. He said if he was entitled to anything, it would be court costs only, just because the statute doesn't allow for it. So if we're looking outside of the statute and regarding whether or not the board could just voluntarily reimburse, and generally it has to be for a public purpose if you're going to be spending taxpayer money. As I detailed in my memo, Sheriff Richmond wasn't acting in his official capacity as defined by the law and by case law. He repeatedly discusses, or his attorney does, in some of his briefs, that he's got kind of protecting his own liberty interest. He's protecting his reputation and his ability to seek further employment, you know, down the line. Basically, those don't speak to his official capacity as Jefferson County Sheriff, more about his own personal liberty interest. So again, I detail all of this in the memo. I also think that it's important just to clarify Brady Giglio. There's a lot of confusion about it. Prosecutors have a legal and ethical duty to disclose anything that could be exculpatory. The courts federally and in the state legislature have defined any credibility issues with witnesses. And so that's kind of where this Brady Giglio list came about, because obviously we rely on law enforcement as witnesses in our criminal trials all the time. And what is determined to be witness credibility is not that well defined. And even in the Iowa statute, it's not very well defined. It says candor issues. It says things like untruthfulness or anything else that could speak to a witness's credibility. So I just wanted to bring that out, that the stakes are pretty high if we are unable to disclose what we need to disclose, and we're not given a lot of guidance as to what that looks like. So if there are some credibility issues with a witness and we are not able to identify them or disclose them, it could mean dismissal of a criminal charge, whether it's a ticket or murder charge. So the stakes are really high. I hope that the legislature addresses this. They're looking at Brady Gilliam now. It's not clear to me that they are going to be looking at the parts that really need to be well defined, but I do think that it's important to mention that to everyone, that the stakes are quite high. And up until now, since this is an emerging area of law, and this is a case of first impression in front of the district, because this right to appeal was only just granted in July. So this is basically the first case where we actually have a district court saying, we looked at it. First of all, the district court also never says that this is any kind of frivolous claim that the county brought. That's never, ever mentioned. This was made in good faith. I know that there are people who feel otherwise, but we really just didn't know, and now we have some more definitions and some more guidance. So if there's any good thing that came out of it, that's one of them.
So, do you want to add anything there?
I'm just here to answer you guys' questions if you have anything to say.
Okay. So I read, the opinion, I guess, I'm not sure what the legal term is, all of it. And the question I have at this point, well, let me back up. I'll take that on in a minute. In regards to reimbursing for attorney fees, I don't know that it's actually even a gray area, but from my perspective, whether I agree or disagree with the reasons for moving forward or the reasons for going to court or any of that, to me is not relevant. As I read 80F, which Brady Giglio falls under, if I'm not mistaken, it's clear in there that only if charges are brought. Do we have it? I don't know if duty is the right word, but do we have potentially an obligation to reimburse for attorney fees? I've got that code section somewhere here, but it basically, it also, in reading the code section, it defines a public offense as a criminal proceeding. Here it is. I'll just read it real quick. If a peace officer, as defined as section 801.4 of the Iowa Code, which Sheriff Richmond has defined is peace officer, or corrections officer charged with the alleged commission of a public offense based on acts or omissions within the scope of the officer's lawful duty or authority, and the charge is dismissed, or the officer is acquitted of the charge, the presiding magistrate or judge shall enter a judgment awarding reimbursement to the officer for any cost. In reading that and defining what they define in that code section as a public offense as a criminal proceeding and a charge, there was no charges filed. I understand that a person could legitimately construe that when it was placed on the list that might constitute a charge, but in this case, Sheriff Richmond, which he was perfectly had within his legal rights to do, so in that same code section, states an officer shall have the right to petition the district court, appeal or intervene in an action regarding a prosecuting agency's decision to place an officer on the Brady Giglio list, which Sheriff Richmond took advantage of that and did indeed file a petition, and the court did indeed rule that he should be removed from the list. As I see it, regardless of what my personal opinion may be or not be, I do not see where we have the legal ability to be able to reimburse those court costs. And part of my concern there is that we would open a Pandora's box in that regard. However, that being said, I also feel that at this point in time, I cannot see any good cause to continue to pursue this. I don't see whether there's any benefit to the residents of Jefferson County. I think that this has that we should have, that we have, that this has run its course and that we need to just move on from it and go back to taking care of business for the residents of Jefferson County, which I believe that both Sheriff Richmond and the Attorney Molding have attempted to do in the past. And I think that that's the direction that we should go now. Accept the judge's ruling on its face. I would ask Elizabeth, in regards to the question for the criminal proceedings, where you have the duty and the obligation to provide exculpatory information, in the fact that the judge was ruling that there was, I've got it highlighted, I don't, without seeing it, I don't
It's
know the
about
exact.
deceit and.
That, well,
Dishonesty.
no, my point is that because there was no, in the judge's opinion, there was nothing in Sheriff Richmond's circumstance that
Didn't rise to the level of the materiality standard is what
Thank you,
he
I
applied,
appreciate that.
right? And he spoke specifically about deceit and dishonesty and it did not rise to that level,
And
so.
he cited many Department of Justice cases and precedents, while also noting that there is the material and materiality is indeed, even the higher courts have not particularly addressed that. I get all that. But my point is that as I'm looking at it, and I'm not a lawyer, but as I'm looking at it, that in his opinion, which he clearly states that that did not rise to the level of all of those, I don't see how moving forward in any kind of proceeding, A, that Sheriff Richmond can't participate, and B, the judge has pretty well nipped that in the bud in my estimation, and that there isn't anything that you would be required to provide to a criminal defendant's attorney.
The judge can't say that. He can say that we will take Sheriff Richmond off the list. I mean, our duty to disclose that information exists whether or not we have a Brady Giglio list or not. So we're not foreclosed or precluded from disclosing information that we think would speak to witness credibility. I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, it does in terms of, and I'm gonna let the others jump in here, but for me, it is a continuation of something that the way I read this, that the judge says, based on the evaluations, the court finds that Sheriff Richmond's conduct during the use of force investigation was not dishonest, deceitful, or constituted a lack of candor. Additionally, County Attorney Molding has not shown the level of materiality necessary to implicate Giglio. Even if Molding had established a lack of candor, it solely resulted from Richmond's failure to respond to emails from the county attorney. And I personally, and I'm not an attorney, and I don't know what defense attorneys will do, and I understand all that. All I'm saying is that I guess for me personally, it's time we move on from this and get back to doing the business of the residents of Jefferson County. We shouldn't be expending, in my opinion, taxpayer dollars on this issue. It's caused upheaval and like I say, on both sides of the equation. And personally, I think it's time to end it.
Are you done?
Huh?
Are you done?
Yes, sir.
Um,
Well, that's a relative question, but go
oh,
ahead.
okay. Was you called into Chauncey's office last week for a conference, Susie?
No,
Was you called into Chauncey's office to a conference?
No, I was not.
Well, I was, and I was led to believe that he was gonna meet with all three of us independently. So apparently I was the only one that was met with.
It's because you're handsome.
Well, thank you,
Okay.
thank
you know,
you.
I,
Joe,
And who-
Joe, I did meet with Susie, I just didn't get a chance to meet with her.
She just said you did.
Teresa said no.
We met about this.
he's right. He's right. I was
Handsome.
busy with my knee last week, okay?
Well, I asked about how much time he had spent on this, and I still did not get an answer. And I was led to believe he was doing it on his own personal time and didn't involve any of the office. Well, here sits Elizabeth this morning handling stuff, so apparently he did involve the office in this. And that's taxpayer dollars. And why would he do it after hours? After hours would be personal time. So I'm starting to question some of this really tough. And my thoughts, I'd like to dig somewhere and find the money to help. I really would. I'll probably get crucified for saying that, but he wouldn't have spent that if it hadn't been for this mess. That's an easy way to get out of it.
Susie?
You know, I can see both sides. I think this is unfortunate, the whole thing. Maybe some communication between both sides would have solved this whole problem. So I don't know. I don't want to spend taxpayer money though. We're already having trouble with budgets. That's just my opinion.
Well, I concur, Susie, and that's why I say I think this needs to stop now. Obviously, I don't have the authority to make it stop, but expressing my opinion. I see no benefit to anybody to continue this. When it comes to a point of law, I understand that sometimes the county, when we're under a microscope, I understand that sometimes what people see under the microscope is not necessarily good when it comes to points of law, but I think we've gone through the judicial process, and while somebody was going to end up not having been satisfied with the end results of that judicial process, I see no advantage to moving forward that anybody gains anything. It just keeps the wound open, and then it gets infected, and it just gets progressively worse. Joe, in answer to your question, from a sympathy standpoint, speaking, you know, I agree. I would like to be able to help him out, but I have real reservations moving forward. Why it seems like maybe it's the right thing to do initially. Looking at the bigger picture, I think it's fraught with all kinds of pitfalls. The legal issue of it notwithstanding, you create a precedent if you work outside the scope of the law in regards to those things that are said, because then that would require us to potentially do the same thing for any other county employee, which would only be right. And maybe that legal expense is $100,000 or $200,000. I know what it costs just to get visitation rights for my son and how expensive that was. Not suggesting that that's a county thing. My point simply is that while I'm not unsympathetic to the circumstance, I have to look at it personally in the context of how that's going to impact the taxpayers in the long run down the road. And anything that we set up, anything that we do now can come back to us or any future board. And it could be a lot more expensive than the $40,000 that Bart has incurred. I'm not even gonna sit here I think that, don't misunderstand, I think that was an unreasonable cost to you. But,
And it is going up. There's a notice of appeal.
well, and that's
To the
why I'm
Supreme Court.
asking for everything to come to
A
a
halt.
halt. And I guess the question I would ask Chauncey in respect to the taxpayers is who's paying for the cost of that appeal and who's paying the court costs in the previous. I mean, even though those numbers may pale in comparison to what Sheriff Richmond is asking us for, it's still cost of, apparently, or at least it appears to me to be cost of the taxpayers. Because if the county attorney's office is pursuing this, would that not be under the responsibility of your budget, I guess, to handle those costs? And if it isn't, and if it's not being pursued under the umbrella of the county attorney's office, then it becomes a personal pursuit. And I don't mean that in any sense other than if it's not county, then it's personal.
I'm glad you brought that up, Lynn.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm glad you brought that up. I think there's a little bit of misunderstanding as to the parties involved. The county is defendant, the county office is the defendant in this case. So when Bart in his personal capacity sued the county attorney's office, it did implicate those fees. What I didn't do in this case, and the reason why my time and some amount of time, public dollars, I suppose, although I would say that the number is pales in comparison to what Mr. Gribble was charging. The reason those were expended is because when we were sued, I opted not to call in our insurance company, not to bill out to ISAC. I mean, those fees would have likely amounted to similar fees to what Mr. Gribble charged. Obviously, we only pay a percentage of those. Honestly, this is not personal. I don't understand why the personal issue keeps getting brought up here. We were sued by the sheriff on a statute, and we defended, and we didn't invoke insurance. So there were, my time was implicated here. Honestly, I can't move past this fast enough. I agree with everybody here. So and while we're talking about Bart, I cannot believe that you would bring confidential informant information to a public meeting like this. That is crazy, but you and I need to talk about that offline.
Well, I appreciate your clarification on that, and Chauncey is right, if we.
Because you put him on the list. I mean, that's.
Right, he was defending himself against you.
Right,
Yeah, and I think, and I put that in my memo, because the county has a duty to defend. But in this case, Sheriff Richmond was not the defendant, like we were talking last week about, the treasurer, when the treasurer was named in a suit and the county had a duty to defend him because he was being sued and the county was being sued. So, that is an important distinction to make. That's not the case here.
all in what I was gonna say is, Chauncey, I appreciate your clarification there, because Chauncey is right. We have attorneys through ICAP, which is Iowa Community Insurance Pool that we belong to. And they do take on cases for us, and then there are attorney fees that are charged for that, and then we pay a percentage of those attorney fees, and so the cost would have been greater. My point simply is that I'm hearing you say that you want to end this. I'm hearing him say that he wants to end this, so why don't we just and be done with it and move on? And okay, you have a concern about something that was disclosed here, and you all can get back to the business then of serving the residents of the county and protecting the residents of the county, which I believe you both do and have done and are continuing to do, that you can resolve that issue. I just see nothing beneficial be gained from continuing to go down this road. There is, I don't see it. And I would respectfully ask both parties to whatever's been done up to this point, I guess I would ask, you know, if indeed it has, and I'm not disputing what you're saying, I'm just, if indeed, if it has been appealed, you can withdraw the appeal, can you not? And, let's just stop it and move on. That's me. Yes, sir.
I want to think about trying to get my thoughts together.
I
right now,
understand.
But the first thing I see is, Bart has been, his lawsuit was in response to being attacked, and his value as a sheriff was lowered with, you'd have to say the thing
Brady
again.
Giglio,
The
yes.
Brady Giglio Act. Now, it's not just Bart sitting here that's under attack. You're also going to weaken, if he is going to be personally liable to continue to protect himself from others who may attack him. You're not just weakening him, you're weakening the deputies, you're weakening the police officer, you're weakening everybody. Because they got this fear now, okay, maybe I didn't vote right, they found out, maybe, who is it? So I believe that, in my opinion, that Bart should help out with this, because this is an astronomical attack on his personal well-being. You know, and we're not just, I just think we shouldn't just protect him. It's, what are we doing to the police force? And yeah, stop things right now, quit attacking him. Just because you might have a personal vendetta against him. I think Bart's a great guy. You know, I known him for a few years, and I would hope that that would be something that would be taken into consideration, that you're not just weakening him. When he was attacked, he had to respond to how he was attacked. So, you know, I've had to be in meetings like this. You know, I used to be on a city council for Richmond for 2 terms, and I just feel as though we need to take in consideration the future of what's going to happen to the next guy if somebody doesn't like me, or, you know, or what. It just, I guess that's pretty much sums it up.
Jeff?
Lee, is this a fair question to ask Chauncey? Are you willing to give up on the appeal to the Supreme Court?
I'm not gonna talk about any active cases that we have going on right now. I'd be happy to brief the supervisors in a closed session, but I can't really mention the details of any ongoing case.
There was,
I like-
that was a fair question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Julie wants to say
Yes.
so.
Oh, yeah. I didn't see it.
Yeah, well, I think it's, Bart was totally responding, and if Chauncey was not an attorney and somebody within your organization attacked him, and he would be here in the same position as Bart, requesting, if he was an attorney and able to do it himself, he would be here too, wanting $40,000 if he had to pay $40,000. This is your house. These are your people. And this is what has been created. And I think it can be fixed. It needs to be fixed quickly, because you see all the people online, you see all the people here. This is just a teeny tiny fraction of what's going on in this county and the talk in this county. And I think you need to hear it. I think Chauncey needs to hear it.
I hate to see my tax dollars going for an appeal for something like this. And I'm here to support what happened for this. I mean, I would hate to see the mayor of my city sitting over there to be attacked. Where my tax dollars would have to support Tom being attacked for something that he did that would be unworthy.
I'm sorry, what's this attack?
I'm just saying, if for some reason, as a county attorney, you would go after the city mayor of Batavia for something where he would have to defend himself for something.
The only reason that would happen is if criminal charges were filed.
I'm just saying, I would hate to have to see tax dollars being spent frivolously for something. And I just think Bart, he's got better things to do than have to defend his reputation. He's got people to take care of. He shouldn't have to take care of his reputation. He has citizens to care for and to defend his reputation. I mean, I'm sorry, but if this is what it's coming down to, it's just not right. And now to file an appeal and my tax dollars that should be coming down to taking care of the citizens of Jefferson County and to have to fight again. This is just not right. I'm sorry. It's just not right.
Thank you.
I think,
So,
go ahead.
so the reason that the county cannot reimburse Mr. Richmond is because no criminal charges were filed.
Under code section 80F specifically, that code section refers to that as a requirement because, and it defines a public offense as a criminal proceeding, which this, even in its, I'm not an attorney, so let me qualify that, but in my estimation, this was a civil proceeding. It was a petition filed by an individual in court. And it was not a criminal proceeding and there were no charges filed on the other end. So in this case, the individual was not defending him or herself from a criminal charge, but rather had petitioned the court for a redress of their individual grievances. And so what I'm suggesting is that while I think it should have never happened, while I do believe, I agree with the young lady that it's time to end this and not pursue it any further, we get back to the business of the county. And while Sheriff Richmond was indeed acting within his rights to petition the court for a redress of those grievances, my concern as a member of the Board of Supervisors moving forward is once I open that Pandora's box, where does that stop? I can say, we can say as a board, okay, Bart, if you've got the money in your budget, submit the claim and you can pay it out of your budget. But moving forward, now I've said that I'm going to pay any employee's legal fees if they decide to sue us because they didn't like to have to climb 2 steps to get into the maintainer. I'm not being flippant or frivolous here. I'm just simply saying that because now we've petitioned the court for a redress of our grievances because I had to climb too many steps to get into a maintainer. Now I've got to pay that employee's attorney fees.
I suppose if the district court agrees with you that they shouldn't have to climb 2 steps to get into the maintainer, that's not the case here.
Right, but the issue is that the court also ruled that he was not entitled to those attorney fees. I would love to, but I'm sitting here today as we all speak, and just so you know, I'm not unsympathetic, but as I sit here or as we sit here, and as we're going through the budget, we're being forced to cut things. We didn't give employees pay raises last year because money is an issue, not because we're overspending, but because of legislation that has come down to change the dynamic. Because the property taxpayers have indicated to the legislators that they want property tax relief, which is how we get our revenue. So there now we'll find $40,000, and if it doesn't end, and I have no legal authority to stop him. Where does that stop? If he has to defend himself again, and now it becomes 100,000. And so I have some concerns. And the other two, have opinions and they're entitled to move in a different direction. There's part of me that would say, I want to do this. But there's the other part of me that as your representative, you can, you have the voice and you can clearly state it, so can the folks that are online. You need to do this. We want you to do this. and maybe look in that direction. I'm just concerned if we do, what problems have we created down the road, even if I'm not here for the next board of supervisors that come in? That's my overriding concern. Again, I'm not unsympathetic to what, I think it's ridiculous what you had to pay. And I do think, again, I'll say this 100 times, maybe I already have. It needs to end. There's no benefit to pursuing this any further.
Is the benefit that Chauncey here is trying to take is to make sure he's not on the ballot next time?
I can't,
I don't, because there's no criminal charge here.
right,
Is that what it is?
I can't answer that question. I would be remiss in trying to get into that. I think that I will give both sides of the equation the benefit of the doubt. In terms of it was a concern on the county attorney's part, whether I agree or disagree with this concern, it was a concern on the county attorney's part that he believed that actions that the sheriff took, which I personally think we probably shouldn't have pursued it, but nonetheless, we did. I think it was a legitimate question on his part. Obviously, Bart had to, in my opinion, defend himself. He couldn't allow himself to remain on that list. And it doesn't benefit the county. I just think it was, I'm not trying to avoid your question. I can't answer the question because I didn't make the decision, but I feel like that this is why I think it needs to stop. The questions that you're all asking, the conversations that we're all having, this is not good for us. It's not good for the county. It's not good for, I might meet great reality TV, but it's not, this doesn't benefit us. And I'm hoping that the county attorney's office and the sheriff's office realize that, and we just, I cannot, as a member of the board of supervisors, cannot make it happen. I can express my desire, but it's outside our purview to make that happen.
Yeah,
We can
especially
express our discontent, but beyond that,
especially when it's not something criminal.
I'm sorry.
Especially when it's not something criminal, it's only just to damage his character.
I would also just like to point out, though, that we have a legal and ethical duty to disclose this information. And then the legislature created the Brady Giglio list as a means for us to disclose it. That doesn't have to exist in the law. Simply availing ourselves of the law that exists as a means to disclose this information is not in and of itself politically motivated or malicious in any way. And I understand that people may disagree with that, but I just kind of wanted to put out the legal framework there.
But I also would indicate or state that since the judge has said his name needs to be removed from the list, while there may be some that disagree with the judge's ruling and others that agree with the judge's ruling, that's the judge's ruling. And obviously, individuals have the right to appeal. It's just unseemly in my opinion. Joe, Susie, yeah, somebody said yes.
So as an appointed official in this county, I've sat through numerous meetings with elected officials within this county. So for those of you that don't know, the Board of Supervisors appoints the Board of Health members for a 3-year term. So the Board of Health is my governing entity. So I directly report to the Board of Health that is appointed by the Board of Supervisors. So that is how it works in public health. So I receive my paycheck from all of you as taxpayers. Okay, I work with the sheriff's office, I work with the county attorney's office, I've worked with every department within this county structure. This is not the only county going through something similar to this. It's very frustrating professionally for me to sit here and listen to this. It's almost as if we can't get along, so we're just gonna be fighting in the sandbox and not moving forward collectively as a group. Elizabeth, to your point, it would be up to my board to have repercussions if I wasn't doing something appropriate, and it would be up to my board to bring that to the public. I understand that and I respect that. But we all have a duty to serve in our capacities in which we're elected or appointed, and to be fiscally responsible. And we need to figure out how to work together and move forward.
I have just one comment. While sitting here, it was pointed out that Tracy Vance and his attorney received some of the documents or some kind of communication from Chauncey's office. And for those of you who aren't aware, Tracy Vance was who ran against Bart the last election, and how his name even got here, everybody should question.
The answer to that is his lawyer filed a public records request, so pursuant to public records requests, county has a duty and an obligation to provide documents. That's the answer. Be happy to talk with you about this if you have questions.
So at this point, I'm gonna toss it back to the board if that's okay. I wish I could wave a magic wand. I don't have my but skin, that's all. So we need to discuss and consider the agenda item. And what you want to do.
Is there a legal way that public can go ahead and help out Bart from his attack from, is there a legal way to do it? I want to make sure.
You mean from the budget? You mean?
No, from the people of the county that dearly voted for the man.
GoFundMe? I mean,
To
I'm not,
protect him from the
I don't.
biased attacks.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, there's, I don't know, there's different, and I've not experienced any of them. But there's different kinds of, I'm gonna say websites or whatever available, like Elizabeth said, GoFundMe, and I'm sure that there's others. So yeah, it's within the taxpayers, or you just writing the check. I mean,
I
don't,
didn't know if that was legal.
yeah, no, it is perfectly fine in that regard.
Yeah.
You would.
It's just that the Board of
I'm willing to do
Supervisors
it.
can't do whatever they want with your money,
It
but
is,
you can.
yes,
Yeah,
Can I say just one thing?
sure,
Okay.
that's it, one thing,
One thing?
yeah,
Well, it'll probably be more than one thing.
okay,
I have a little personal involvement in this. And so this will just be a personal feeling, but, I'm a taxpayer too. And I know you don't work just at night and on the weekend on this, because that's just BS. And also, you need to stop the Supreme Court thing, because all it's doing is costing us tax dollars. Because you're paying her, you're paying him, you're paying his secretary. Personally, I think it should come out of his budget. Also, you can say this started 9 months ago. This has been going on for 4 years, since the day the Bart and Tracy Vance went in to try to get the sheriff department. Also, Chauncey, if you're a good person, you'd stop the Supreme Court now, because a lot of this is personal. Don't stop.
I have
Let me
no idea what
finish.
you're talking
I have the
about.
floor
I'm
now.
Happy to talk to you about this
No.
offline, but-
Yeah, I will stop when I get done. And also, it needs to stop, because it just shows what kind of person you are. And I would think you'd like to, for the county, you are the county attorney. You are to represent people. There's lots of other cases that you could be working on, and you're not. And this is trivia. I've known this man as a man and also as a sheriff. You're not gonna find any more honest, decent person out there. And right now, you're not that man at all. You are not a decent person at all, because you are dragging taxpayers' dollars in. So that's all I have to say, but it's really, it's pathetic.
to a point of clarification for the public in general. Both Sheriff Richmond and County Attorney Molding are elected officials. We have no jurisdiction over elected officials. By law, we appropriate certain amount of dollars to their budgets. How they spend those dollars in their budgets is completely and totally up to them. We have no jurisdiction in that regard. The only future jurisdiction we have in regards to those budgets, if either one of them were to come back to us and ask for a budget amendment to appropriate more money because they pardon upon injudiciously overspent in an area or spent money, whatever. So quite frankly, I mean, the money's coming out of this being expended, if any, is coming out of Chauncey's budget, because we have not received any claims. So our budget that we control and that we pay for things out of is not being challenged in this regard. Sheriff Richmond's budget is not being challenged in this regard, meaning that none of the expenses that he has incurred for his personal defense, for lack of a better word, it's come out of his back pocket. It hasn't come out of his budget, just so that everybody knows. And that's, that's the way the system works. Again, as I just stated, for the record, while I agree with you that it needs to end, I have no authority to
No, I know
end
you
it.
don't.
Nor does anybody else. But anyway, back to the question.
Mark wants
Yes.
to say something.
Who?
Mark.
Mark. Oh, hi, Mark. Sorry.
Hi,
You're up at
guys.
the top.
Before you guys make a decision, as somebody who's been represented by Chauncey and somebody who's kind of been in Bart's situation, if you take everything else that you guys have been talking about over the last 20+ minutes, you guys covered me through ICAP. It sounds like if the amount of money that we're talking about was something that could fit into the county budget, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. Is there any avenue in which Sheriff Richmond could submit a claim through ICAP to cover 85% like it did with me, which would just leave 15% left for the county?
Very good question.
I don't have an answer to that question. I really truly don't. ICAP didn't litigate it, as Chauncey indicated. I don't know if that's
True, but with
crucial.
Bart in his capacity as the sheriff, would that be an avenue that at least could be asked before you guys make that decision? I would hate to see anybody make a decision without kind of making sure every stone was not left unturned. If that makes sense.
It does, but can I put it in a different context? And I don't know that this is an accurate, but it's almost like, let me, before I say this, how many Cubs fans do we have here?
None.
Okay, so I can say it's like the Cubs playing themselves. And it's the only opportunity that they have. And so we, on the one hand, are spending taxpayer dollars, shall we say, to defend ourselves against a petition, which had every legal right to bring. And then we're going to pay the other side to challenge us. It on one level, it doesn't make sense. I understand what you're saying, and I don't know the answer to that question, but it just seems to me like if we were going to go that route, that's what the board wanted to do, we would find it within the budget somewhere to pay it rather than involving it obviously would be, like you say, the 15% mark, and you're right. Which is what our policy requires us to pay, so the folks understand. So when we incur legal fees by using ISAC in certain cases, we have a 15% obligation to whatever. So.
And I mean, along those lines, the county attorney was the one who was the defendant in the case.
Right.
So if the county's duty to defend exists, which it does, and Mark, you brought that up because the county defended you. then I don't know if the county attorney is entitled to being defended. I mean, we're opening up a can of worms, and also, as I mentioned in my memo, Sheriff Richmond wasn't acting in his official capacity in this appeal, even if it were allowed by statute, which it isn't. He also was not the defendant, was the plaintiff.
The question is whether he'd have to spend the money, whether it's an official or personal. Would he have had to spend the money?
I understand
If he was not attacked?
I understand your question.
Yeah.
But again, I think it all goes back to the fact that it has to be allowed by statute, first of all.
I understand that.
The
but it's
judge
kinda like-
said no, and it's not an ADF. If you look at the statute stating that the Board of Supervisors or the taxpayers have to defend a county official, then that is usually in the case of somebody acting as a defendant. It's not like he's defending himself from something or somebody, but the person who is the defendant, which he is not in this case.
It's kind of
So
like
I would-
Ben Jack Smith.
I would make a point, or not a point, but, comment. It's ironic on the one level, I think, this is me personally, that we're advocating that the judge said no to legal fees. And we want to abide by that, but the judge said remove him from the list and we don't want to abide by that. It seems to me that we need to look at that from both sides of the equation. I'm sorry to
But we
say.
have to take them off the list. The judge said so.
Right. But we're not apparently ending it there is what I'm saying. Okay, back to the question at hand that's on the agenda. The discussion has kind of gotten,
Can I ask a question?
yes, sir.
You guys are elected officials as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
My taxpayers pay your wages, right?
Yes.
Is there a way to have a special, vote by the taxpayers, leave it up to the taxpayers to decide whether or not part gets reimbursed?
I don't know whether there's a code section for a special election or not, Abby.
I would have to look.
She's our resident expert on elections.
Well, from the turnout today, it's pretty obvious how it's feeling.
But here's what I would say to the taxpayers, and I do not mean this disrespectfully to any of you. But this gentleman brought up an excellent point. If you feel that strongly about it, and yes, it's your tax dollars, there is no question about that, that I would never dispute that. I don't know where we would get it, but if you started a GoFundMe page or something of that nature, and the taxpayers did indeed feel strongly about that. I mean, if you had,
I don't think I can accept money.
you can give it to me.
But I cannot accept.
think-
Being an elected
Oh,
sheriff. No, I can't accept a lunch. I cannot accept money as an
You're right.
elected sheriff.
Now, whether or not.
And I won't
it's
do it
directly
anyway.
to him,
I'm sorry.
I mean, if there's a way that his attorney could be directly reimbursed,
I see.
but I don't.
But to Bart's point, we're restricted, I think it's to $2.99. I can't even get a hamburger at McDonald's anymore for $2.99.
So we're not able to reimburse because Bart was the plaintiff, not the defendant. But in this case, that he was put on a list is almost like guilty until proven innocent type of thing. So really, he wouldn't be
That's a good point.
suing the county unless he was already on the list there with it. So I don't think it's opened up Pandora's box by reimbursing the fees there with it, because Elizabeth said correctly that this was a new law that was in place that you could appeal it for. So maybe that's a deterrent. It's just not that easy to put somebody on a list like that, that maybe, okay, there could be repercussions that could be held with lawyer fees or anything else. Because it seems like if, I don't know what it takes to be put on the list, but it seems like it must be pretty easy to be put on the list.
Can I ask another question, Elizabeth? And I apologize for throwing you under the bus all the time. The judge said that that we were not required to pay legal fees. Is that right?
I believe he said he was not entitled to them, and if he won on the merits, because this was an order from December, so this was prior to his most recent ruling, but basically, if he went on the merits of his case, at a most, he would be entitled to court costs, but not attorney's fees or damages.
Which he ordered court costs.
Yes, court costs, right. So, and that is just like in the range of $100 to $200.
But being entitled is different than we don't have to, but it doesn't preclude us. Is that a fair?
I can provide the language for you if you want to parse it, and I didn't put it in the memo, so, you know, if we want to look at it more with, you know, if we want to look at it more, but basically, the statute doesn't allow it.
Okay.
There's no statute that would allow it. The only statute you could look to would be the county's duty to defend, which I mentioned in the memo. Additionally, public funds have to be used for public purpose. So there was a court case where there was a supervisor in Iowa who was elected, and then I can't remember all the details, but eventually that supervisor had to defend themselves against some allegations that they weren't qualified to serve. And that went up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of Iowa said that they were not entitled to be reimbursed for those fees because they weren't acting in their public capacity. And even in that case where they were the defendant. So, you know, like there are a lot of laws and there's a lot of case law that kind of fleshes out some of this and some of the duties regarded to the Board of Supervisors and how they can use taxpayer funds. So I think it's pretty clear that unless somebody is defending themselves in their public capacity, which again, Sheriff Richmond multiple times, his attorney mentions that, you know, this kind of forecloses some future employment opportunities. So looking down the line when he's no longer the county sheriff affects his liberty interest.
Words.
I'm sorry, I'm
I
quoting
am the elected
directly.
sheriff, and this directly affects my position as sheriff.
I was directly quoting your attorney.
So,
Impair or
you
foreclose.
know,
future
I'm a
employment.
taxpayer too, along with all these people here. I pay plenty of property tax, supporting the system that I work under because I'm supported by it. But I'm paying half of my yearly salary to an attorney to defend myself. That's what it comes down to.
Against our own county.
It's
Attacked
almost like
by
it's
our own
an HR
county.
thing. One employee's punched the hell out of him, out of Bart. And Bart just responded.
From a
It's like
taxpayer
HR.
perspective and your idea of opening Pandora's box. If this goes through the Supreme Court, the ruling stays the same. Bart decides to sue the county for defamation. Will we be responsible for that as taxpayers? His attorney fees?
Potentially,
And
plus the
probably more.
cost to defend that, yes. Be 15%.
As a taxpayer, I really ask the board that I think that we owe to reimburse him. I mean, he had to defend his character in this community.
But I think it's a little bit more than a character issue as well. I mean, even in Chauncey's statement, he sent out to all the law enforcement agencies in the area that, hey, Bart's on this list, effectively, he can't do his job. So, I mean, sure, there are some personal benefit. You know, he has to pay his bills, he has to have a salary, like you know, if he's out of a job, like he can't take care of his family. But also, he can't do his job as the sheriff while he was on that list. I mean, I don't think it was entirely a personal benefit, it's also for him to be able to do his job that he was elected to do.
And I believe Chris mentioned across the state, there's other counties, several other counties.
I don't want to belabor.
And what they're doing is they're going to the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy Council and trying to get these people decertified.
So
I had to defend myself because I saw that coming. That was gonna be next.
From being a witness in court. That's what it is. It has nothing to do with doing your job. It means there's an issue with the credibility of the witness. It's a statutory and a constitutional duty. It has nothing to do with anything personal or anything professional. It has to do with what a prosecutor's office is obliged to provide a defense. That's all it is.
That doesn't affect his job. Yeah, and
It affects my job.
and his ability to be elected again, because that'll be used.
Well,
Yeah.
It
And
also
to
affects the
testify.
community's view of him, whether you say it doesn't or not.
Yeah.
I mean, people that don't know him, that's,
But I go back to, at this point, to me, I understand where you were coming from, Chauncey, and I get it, and so you put him on the list. He asked for reconsideration, he chose not to move forward on that, okay, so then he petitioned the court, and the court says, no, you gotta remove him from the list, okay, so that's all done and said. And so it's not an issue because you removed him from the list, or you removed him as a response to the court. And so now he can testify. Whether you choose to call him to testify, I don't know, but he can testify. I don't see where there's a duty to disclose because he's not on the list. But that being said, it also speaks volumes to me if I'm an individual out there that's going to create a problem, and every attorney probably in the state now where this is at, and if this goes to the Supreme Court, if they weren't aware prior to it, they're going to be aware of it, and they're going to use it against us anywhere down the road. And that's why I say I see no benefit to the residents of Jefferson County. But we're getting up far afield again to the question that's on the agenda. I don't know how to pursue this. I have major concerns. Your point is well taken, by the way, as far as the cost, if it was to go on up, continue to go on up the food chain. And I have mixed emotions in this, but I don't know how you aren't going to be required to do this later. I don't know how you're not going to be required to come back in 3 months or 4 months if this continues to be pursued at well, I guess it would be kind of an appellate court first before, I don't know, Chauncey, does it go directly to the Supreme Court or is there an appeals court first? I
They
don't know.
decide whether it goes to the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court, basically.
Okay, but anyway, there's going to be additional costs associated with that, additional costs with him potentially having to
Defend myself.
defend yourself. And so then we'd be back here having this conversation again, and maybe it's another $40,000. I'm just pointing out to the county attorney's office and to, I mean, there would be no need for him to continue to pursue this if there was no need to continue to pursue it. And in this conversation, Bart has never said he's gonna come after the county. I don't know where this ends in terms of if we pay this and then it continues on, now we've opened that door to come back to pay the next half and the next half and the next half. And it goes on and on and on. And what I would like to see happen, at the very least, before we consider this any further, is, or choice of words, a cessation of hostilities, and then discuss the rest of it.
I want to challenge you, Lee.
Yes, sir.
You used the word sympathetic. I don't think it's about sympathy. I've been in law enforcement for 27 years. Known Mark Richmond all that time. Known Chauncey less.
Sure.
I think we need to look at what's reasonable, not what's sympathetic. And I don't know from hearing you talk that can be generated to a decision today. Maybe it needs further discovery. But I think it needs to be looked into because nowhere in 331 does it say that you can't pay the sheriff and reimburse him. When you're placed on that list, you're basically null and void, can't do nothing. So Bart was defending his honor. He was defending every officer in this county. I'm still an officer in the police department and a reserve in Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. I would stand everyone behind those guys as well as Bart. So I think this needs some real further discussion in hearing you talk. And so I don't think it's an issue of sympathy. It's an issue of what's practical in hearing you talk and what's reasonable.
Well, there's a question about ICAP. If you want, we can discuss it with them.
I'm not opposed to discussing it with them. I just, it just seems counterintuitive to me that, but and maybe that was a poor choice of words on my part. In as far as, you know, being sympathetic to the situation. And I appreciate what you said. I just,
Lee, can I ask you a question to Elizabeth? I was gonna ask her a little bit ago. So for the elected officials in this room, which there are several, there's no other kind of list for other elected officials that would, that would impair something similar to what the Brady Giglio list is, correct? That's why I made that comment earlier about being appointed official versus elected official, because I've sat through, I don't know how many meetings in my 17 years being at the county. Elected officials can basically run their department with no oversight. They answer to the taxpayers. So that's my question. Let's say that there was a list for, Christy, I'm gonna pick on you because you're new, right? Let's say there's an auditor list, right? I mean, what is the recourse? I don't know. That's why I'm asking that question, and hopefully somebody else in this room has the same question.
So I guess.
Like if they did something in an elected position that's not a sheriff, there's not another list similar to the Brady Giglio list that would impair me saying about an elected official or a process within the court system to say, hey, they can't function and do this as an auditor, treasurer, you know, in a different capacity. Am I making sense? Do you guys understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, I guess like for attorneys, we have, you know, the Iowa Ethics Board, you know, if you have any kind of licensure, but I understand that you're saying there isn't a specific list that you can put other elected officials on that would say that they can't testify as a witness and.
Well, I'm not even saying testifying as a witness. I'm saying to do a certain component of their job.
But that is what it's limited to.
Okay, that's my question. I just wanted to know. Like as a
so-
nurse, it's a whole different recourse with my licensure, right? If I'm doing something, it's gonna go to the board of nursing.
Right.
That was my question. So
Right.
in a different capacity of elected official, there's not the same process in place is what I was
And
making a point
it
to.
doesn't,
Jeff wants to say something before you, Julie.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Alright.
I just,
It appears to me that you have a concern about total amount of dollars, you know, could be 40, could be 50, could be whatever it amounts to. What's your thoughts on tabling this until you get a hard number? Well, we can get a hard numbers if Chauncey and you guys meet. And if you guys decide not to take this to the Supreme Court or appellate court, that's fine. If you choose to, then that's fine too. At least you're gonna have an idea of how much money you're talking about.
well, that's why I said a cessation of hostilities. We
Right.
had a commitment, then that does kind of give us a finite number.
I would recommend you table it until you get a finite number.
Okay, my question would be, if this were to move forward to the Supreme Court, he will then be a defendant. Can we contact ICAP and have them step in at that point? Because he will then be a defendant and he will be defending himself.
Julie, Bart can always contact ICAP, any of the county officers. So that's.
So
That's all I have.
again, I go back to what I said 3 hours ago. Why can't we just drop it and end it? What is the point of continuing to pursue it? I think that is the big question to me. And then from there, and I know it's not necessarily the entire question for you, and I understand that. And then we can make a consideration even to Jeff's recommendation to possibly table it. But because I don't know, at this point, I think it's a good idea to table it in terms of, even if the board was inclined to do this, you got to figure out where it's gonna come from, how you're gonna do it. Obviously, legally, it doesn't appear that we can do it. So I don't know, I just don't know. You know, you don't want to violate the law. I don't know how specific. I guess, Elizabeth, just real quickly, very shortly. The law says there's no requirement, or the law says I can't.
you can't.
So then you're violating the law. And But what I would like to be able to hear today is that it ends here today.
My thoughts, I think we should talk to ICAP and see what they got to say in this situation. But I realize we're kicking it down the road, but he shouldn't have had to spend that money. So do we need a motion to contact ICAP about the situation?
What if ICAP comes back and says that the county attorney was the defendant in this case?
Explain to me what you mean by that.
I mean, do you have a duty to defend him? Or do we only want to ask ICAP what, if we can reimburse for, I guess, I just don't know what they're gonna be coming back with, because we're talking about who was the defendant in this current action.
That's what, I don't know either what
Okay.
they're gonna say.
Okay,
I want to
yeah,
hear
we'll
what
just
they've
submit
got
the
to say.
question.
Okay, so
I hear the
I'm gonna
entire
ask for a
story.
complete auditing of all costs there was on, that the county attorney has wasted on this. So we can have that information for the next election.
I've already asked that.
Good. It needs to be done.
um,
When a judge has ruled and you don't like, and in this situation, I believe it's more of an HR issue because the man has a hatred for it. What it is, I have no idea. And then it's completely unethical what you're doing. I obviously, you had a rule, you had a ruling, and now you're throwing it out because you want to keep going, because you didn't get your answer you wanted. I spent some time in the courtroom, so.
okay,
So
so
it's causing a lot of aggravation in this county if it continues on, and I'm with you, it needs to stop. But
Yes.
how do we heal the damage that Bart has received? How do we heal?
well, I'm gonna go back to Jeff's suggestion, if the board is amenable to that, and Joe has already brought it up. It doesn't address the other elephant in the room, which is, and
I don't know.
to the folks here and to the folks on Zoom, we can't force a stop. But I agree with your assessment. The court has ruled. I think we need to accept that and drop it. It's not to the benefit of the taxpayers. I've said that 100 times. I won't say it again. So did you make a motion?
Has the executive order that the Honorable President Donald Trump signed on lawfare come into effect here anywhere?
Well,
That's something to look at.
I don't honestly want to go down that road. I just,
Lawfare is lawfare.
well, I don't disagree with you, but again, this is the things that I was hoping, to be honest with you, was to avoid, and why I would like to see it in here is because it just needs to. There's just, it's my personal observation. I'm not speaking for the other two members of the board. I see zero benefit to the taxpayers in this. And in fact, if anything, there's a detriment. But back to your, did you make a motion?
I make a motion that we contact ICAP, see what they have to say about it. You need more than that?
Well, we need a second.
We also may need to table this, if that part of your motion.
Yeah, or to table it, contact ICAP, I'm
Okay, so
sorry.
we have a motion and a second to table this, to reach out to ICAP for verification, advice and consent.
And there were several questions asked here today that maybe you can find more, table it and ask for clarification on all those questions.
I appreciate, we have a motion and a second. You had it, got it down there, right?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, so I don't know exactly when we'll get this. I remind everybody that there will be no meeting next Monday. The next time we get together will be March 24th. Whether we have an answer at that point or not, I don't know as far as ICAP is concerned, but it will be on the agenda if we receive a response from ICAP. In the meantime, I said I wouldn't say it again, but I will. In the meantime, I would urge parties to end this. And that's all I can do.
And we expect notification that it has ended, one way or the other.
And that Bart's name is removed from that list.
I believe it's
Immediately.
already-
If it's been more than a day, that's damage.
Removed, like that.
It was ordered to be, has it been
Something
removed?
that's in it.
But case, what you got in closed session.
No. There's your answer.
He just said he was not performed on the judge's order.
Did not say that, sir.
You can read right into it.
What's your name? Let's talk about it.
Huh? My name's Dean Anderson. I know Anderson Tooling on Sixth Street. That's who I am.
Let's talk.
I don't need to. I've got semis waiting on me to go unload right now. I got to roll. So.
Okay, so we've, the time, I appreciate everybody, I appreciate all the input. It's the two parties involved is very, very difficult situation, and I get that. It's, I'm hoping that we can resolve this to the satisfaction of everybody, and that may be a little hopeful, but that is my hope, that we can arrive at a positive outcome to all of this. So if we can get an indication, that would be great. If everybody doesn't mind, I know we've been here for 10 years. But obviously I have to go downstairs for a minute. So if you one of you want to start your committee reports or whatever, that would be.
We can take a 10-minute recess for you to run down there. You only need 5 minutes.
Five, I think I'll give it five.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. I realize it took time out of your day.
I would like to have an audit, expenses that they're wasting.
Yes.
I'll make sure it's public for the next election.
Sure. Did you just speak? Did you get what you needed?
Yes. Turn on the fan finally, thank God.
Thanks a lot.
30 degrees.
Right?
Yeah, I heard Josh.
Yeah, I was just hanging out, watching the show.
She never does.
I suppose we should have made popcorn.
Sorry, Elizabeth, you was put into that center. Right?
Comes with the job, eh?
Comes with the job. It's trying to be rational, but they can't.
I asked if you met with him. Thank you.
And I was thinking about.
Well, I see what they're gonna say about it. That's what I'm saying. I said to on my knees. Yes, sir.
Just.
Can you scratch himself?
I think he must have cut himself shaving or something. He thought,
I thought you were asking me.
No, you're fine.
I'm sorry.
You're
I Knocked over my dog.
Oh, you're as bad as me. with
I
the
know,
dog.
right?
Can we bring charges on your dog?
I mean, if anyone wants a dog that's the size of a small horse, moves like a squirrel, then I got one.
funny, my son came running in the house yesterday. He found a shed antler. And we have a new German Shepherd puppy. It was literally right on the door threshold when he opened the door and he came and tripped on that puppy holding that deer shed. And I was like, you are lucky you didn't just impale yourself
Yeah.
with that deer antler. He
I
was
thought
so,
the puppy was gonna grab
he
me.
was so proud that he found that shed. He had to go running in
Sorry.
and there's the puppy.
Yeah, just put a picture.
Wow, it's still really.
We were trying to sweat him out.
I know, right?
Save the trip to the sauna, I guess.
We usually directly correspond with ICAP, but I don't know if you want, us to CC somebody specifically, or I just don't know. I want to make sure that it's comfortable with whatever communication is happening.
As long as it's you doing it, not.
We can have Mike do it too.
You what?
We can have Mike do it too.
Oh.
Better out there. It's like 10 degrees cooler.
But I don't mind doing it. I can check that.
Just hadn't happened, so. Joe, I believe they both are at fault. They should have communicated better.
That's true. Drink all my.
I can only stand so long.
Oh.
4 spine surgeries and 3 knee surgeries, and I'm standing there and I couldn't take too much.
Wow. Let's be frank.
Randall for coming.
Everyone. Over the most part, I don't.
See you on the screen.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt about it. Tonight at 9.
Tonight at 9?
Yep.
Okay.
A lot of that.
Well, thank you for picking that up. I didn't see that.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk to you later. Enjoy the beautiful weather at some point.
Beautiful. Supposed to be what, up to 70 today? Wow.
It's too nice to be at work. Inside.
Do they open? Oh my God. Why don't we take advantage of that sooner?
What, the windows open?
We didn't want to make it too comfortable.
They
for
do?
everybody.
I've never seen them open. No, don't bother, Abby.
They need to open it.
Oh,
They
okay.
have the sticks. A lot of.
Don't break anything over there.
I was like, man, I'm so.
Susie's probably got it fastened shut, knowing her. Oh, I'm.
Hang on just a second.
Shame.
They can't see me on Zoom, can they?
We can hear you.
Yeah, they can hear you.
Abby, not out the window. You need to push with the window.
They know what you're doing, Susie.
No, they
Is it
don't.
We
stuck?
had a big crowd this morning. We really
Sometimes
did.
there's
I
like
think
a
it's
little
great,
tab
yeah,
at the
sure.
bottom of windows
Yeah.
too. I don't know.
He
No.
clearly has lots of
I'll
support.
get one.
Yeah.
I assume he'd be able to do a GoFundMe if the money doesn't go directly to him, but that might be something where,
It could go to his wife.
or go directly to his attorney.
I would say directly to the attorney. I would.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, they're gonna be on the Zoom meeting, or do you need it?
Oh, I sure am.
Are you?
Yeah, I
Okay.
got all the meetings today.
Me too.
City council.
I have Indian Hills meetings.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Abby, how did you hurt yourself while I was opening the window?
Call company nurse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just was asking in case you need me to facilitate. That's why I was asking you that.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's a nice breeze.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, you got it open? I did.
yeah.
Oh,
What do you, well, you should have had that earlier.
well, we have to use it.
We are still on Zoom.
Oh, I thought that was for.
Yeah, I thought it was like
Too much.
affectation.
Still on Zoom.
Oh, that feels so
Oh,
good.
yeah, no problem.
Oh, goodness.
This one behind
Looks
me
good,
didn't
babe.
open, Abby.
Looks good now.
Well, for about 2
I can't
seconds.
get it.
Oh.
Okay. Hello, everybody. We're back. Appreciate everybody hanging on. So committee report,
I'll go first.
okay?
Tuesday morning, we had a medical response exercise at the hospital having to do with emergency preparedness, and it was from 8 to 12, and it was, Lee and I both attended. It was a very good session. Very good session. I met with the Republic, the Farm Bureau women at Riverside Restaurant Tuesday, talked about my job and this and that. And enjoyable to see those ladies.
Were they unclear what you do?
I didn't tell them what I'd done. I told them the responsibilities. And then on Thursday at noon, I had Traction Thursday at the Eco Lab.
Traction.
It's an entrepreneurs come in at
Oh, I
12
just
o'clock.
envisioned you being.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, Well, get traction with those tennis shoes.
Oh, okay.
With the cleats on.
And I've been going to these and different people come in and talk about their business or their life and it's just very interesting. I shouldn't say it, but I did kind of get hooked on listening to different people there. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Susie?
Ed, none.
So like Joe indicated, I too did attend the tabletop exercise. I was taken aback, to be perfectly honest with you. The first, there were three portions of the exercise. And the first one was a situation where we were involved in a pretty devastating tornado and that we were having the needs to find bed space and multiple injuries to deal with.
Surge capacity. It's called surge capacity.
Okay. So, in our breakaway group, our responsibility was to, and in this case, Stacy Worley handled this one, was to call other hospitals to determine bed space availability. She called. Now, keep in mind that this wasn't an emergency situation. This was just part of the exercise, but she physically actually did indeed reach out to the University of Iowa hospitals. She was on the phone for 5 minutes and nobody ever called, or no, nobody ever came on, nothing. She reached out to Des Moines Mercy.
Des Moines, yeah.
And they responded immediately. So I wrote down, this call for the purpose of exercise, yet no emergency. U of I did not pick up in real scenario. It would be even worse, more difficult to coordinate because all of the region that was hit would be trying to make contact. So if they would not respond to us, or in this case to Stacy, in a non-emergent situation, what the hell are you going to do in an emergency situation? I just thought that was the other situation we tried to address, which I believe is critical, and I don't know how we will address it. But I think with Bart, with Bart, but in particular I meant with Brett, something that we need to, and with the other stakeholders. We get a major tornado, you've experienced this up there where you live. Our communications are down, how do we communicate? We lose a tower, how do we communicate?
Call Abby.
Huh?
Call Abby.
Call Abby, yeah, exactly. And so those were concerns that I had coming out of that. I will be perfectly honest, towards the end, I had a difficult time.
It was a lot of information, Lee, Joe. It was a lot. It was a lot.
I did, just for reference, see an eye doctor in Mount Pleasant on Thursday. I had film growing on the back of the lenses they put in when they removed the cataracts. Didn't know such a thing, he said it was quite common. They removed them with a laser, he said it'd take 30 seconds each eye. You'd feel no pain, looked into a red light and I heard it go I come out of there and it's absolutely amazing. Yeah, I can see stop signs that I've never seen before.
And we're glad for that.
Well, yeah, I'm sure the other people are too. But anyway, so that's all I had. Public comments.
I have a public comment.
Okay.
I want to disappoint you, so, okay. So I will tell you that, to your point, as far as the regional exercise goes, we have an after action report meeting tomorrow afternoon. We have a Zoom meeting. And then the company All Clear will be writing, the whole after action report, and I will make sure that you all get a copy of that. Once it's available, it'll take several weeks to receive that. So there'll be some great lessons learned, some great positive things that happened, and then some areas of improvement. So, and thanks you guys for attending. That's why I came back and stayed, so.
We don't need to be there tomorrow.
No, you don't have to be, because we kind of had our own little hot wash and got some information.
Okay.
So I just appreciate you guys participating in a regional exercise. So thank you.
Any other public comments? Anybody online?
Yeah, I think they picked it up. Okay.
Oh. Okay.
Hearing none, I would allow, or would, accept a motion to allow claims and approve reports? Okay, I will.
Planes walked off.
Who, what? Oh,
Darcy's her.
She took them with her.
Oh, well, shame on her.
Chris,
Yes.
I had 5 dogs at Pepin Chestnut.
Oh, my gosh. That's a lot.
And I'm gonna be staying at one for 1 day.
Today?
We're gonna be fun.
Okay.
Now, you can drive me now, you can see.
I didn't say I knew how to drive, I just said I saw stop signs that I'd never seen before. I do appreciate you, Elizabeth. Thank
No
you.
problem. I have an extra. You guys all have one, right?
Yes. Oh, would you give those to, Joe does this so well. Well, thank you.
Have a good day, you guys.
Thanks,
Bye,
girls.
Chris.
Thank you. Thank
Bye,
you.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth,
Yes, sir.
when we get done with budgets and stuff, we want to sit down and start having conversation about on ordinance. And I was gonna ask the board at some point here.
You want to have a work session or
Yeah.
I can do what we did with the wind ordinance kind of.
Well, and I was going to ask the board's permission or get their input as far as inviting Bruce Hudson over, since he does zoning in Eliza County, and they're putting in a 6,000 acre solar farm, and so he would have some insights
That would
that,
be great.
Do they have 2 solar farms over there?
yes, they do.
I've
1
met with,
5 and 1 6.
Yeah.
That's a lot of acres.
there was one individual, Patrick Sold. I don't know if anyone's familiar with him, but he's very interested in the solar ordinance and he's provided me some samples from around the state, but not
Okay.
sure which direction you all want to head in. So just.
Yes,
I misspoke. It's 500 or 600 acres and then the 6,000.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's
That's
800 acres and then the
still a lot.
6,000. But anyway, yeah, so almost 7,000 acres.
Claims.
Happy to do it.
All right, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
$80,100.68.
We have a second?
Second.
All, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Take note, on Tuesday at 11 a.m., we are meeting with a member of the Fair Board. So that will be public, folks, if you want to participate. Are we going to have a budget work session?
Tomorrow?
No,
Today.
today. Oh, you got
I
me
can
down
for 20 minutes.
there. No, that's all right. We'll just go there. I mean, I don't think do you have something, I should apologize. Do you have something you need to?
No updates.
Okay, so we're okay. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Jumpy.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.